Chatbots been around since 2015. Are they still relevant today? But let's first start with what is a chatbot? Over to you, Martin.
Thanks, Melanie. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. I'm still, like usual, drawing pictures over here. Terrible scribbles that looks like a 5 years old, but anyway. So, so a chatbot pretty much is when you're using, they were, like you said, 2015 is when they were first introduced, and they started blipping on our radar in 2017 when we sort of researched them. So the whole idea is that to make it, to improve the customer experience. So, I mean, there's always the problem that for your customers to communicate with your business through technology, they must, go to your website. So they must search for you through Google, or they must go and download an app and install the app on their phone, or whether it's a progressive web app or a mobile app or whatever. So this whole sort of concept was that people already have some kind of a chat messaging apps on their phone already. They probably have, I mean, most of the population of the world's got WhatsApp that have smartphones, and then Facebook messages also popular, get Skype, Slack, whatever. So you don't have to install anything. The idea is that you just add a contact and you start chatting to the contact. So if you look at my little scribbled drawing over here, you can see that people are basically through this chat, this chat program, they, instead of talking to a person on the other side, they're actually talking to a machine. So, the big advantages of that for the consumer is they don't have to install anything. The big advantage for the business is, they can have a program there that can be communicating with people 24/7, which is especially useful after hours, etc. So when this blipped on our radar in 2017, I had a little bit of a look around to see what apps are out there. And one that actually quite impressed me was one of Burger King, where you could basically use the chatbot app to place an order. So let's say you're walking around a shopping mall. Normally you would have to go stand in the queue, wait until you get to the front, place your order, then you have to wait till they make the order, etc. Now you can walk around the shopping mall, and through the chatbot in the US, you can actually say, I want a burger and fries and whatever, and then they actually send you a message 10 minutes later and say that, and you can even pay. And then you can go and collect it. So they say, listen, your order is ready to collect. So I thought, wow, for me as a customer, I don't know how you feel about it, but I would actually use something like that.
No, definitely. And I think also for a lot of companies, it answers a lot of the frequently asked questions, and the repetitive jobs that they would have normally had to have people for can now be done through a chatbot. So yes. I think that's an important invention in terms of that.
Sure. So what happened 4 years ago, I went to look at some of our local South African chatbots just to see what people were doing. And, I went to Burger King South Africa to see if they've got the functionality over here, and they didn't, because so when I sent the message, the reply was, how can we help you? And I realized I'm just chatting with the person on the other side. So I thought, well, okay, it's probably just a matter of time, let's give it a while. South Africa is usually lagging a little bit in some regards, technology-wise. So we were sort of waiting for people to come and start asking us for chatbots or start talking about chatbots, and it went sort of quiet. And now it's 5 years later. So when we were preparing for this interview, I thought that we're going to find, I just wanted to get updated what's happening overseas, what are all the amazing chatbots out there, and these amazing trends and whatever, and we can just share, And then I was really surprised when I started doing research to see, it didn't spread like wildfire overseas. It wasn't the big hit that everybody, the whole tech world sort of anticipated. It was going to be. And I mean, you must understand that, I mean, Facebook threw a lot of money towards, Messenger. So I think the big question out there is why?
Yes, no, definitely that would be the question, because if you think about it, it actually serves so many different purposes, and you get AIs today and that type of chatbots that actually do deep learning, where they can ask you intelligent questions, because, technology has moved quite far from where they started at, where it was just the normal questions. So yes, that brings us to the questions, what happened?
what happened, yes. So something was interesting when I was doing research. I saw a little article where they actually said that 72% of people in the US weren't even aware that chatbots existed. So,
Wow.
I mean, that's a massive part of the population. One of the other comments that I also read is the fact that, you know, it's not widely marketed. So the consumer out there isn't aware that it exists. So it's a marketing issue. Well, that's one of the comments that I had. The other thing is that also, if you think about it, if you do a very basic chatbot, it is very similar to what you have on your mobile device, the USSD codes where you can like stars,
Yeah.
number, hash, whatever, and you select. Now, typically, the big question that I ask is it making customers' lives? Are you improving the customer experience? Because if it's slow and you have to go through, you know, answer 10 questions, you know, to get to something that you can just click with a single click on a website, people aren't going to use it. So are you adding value?
I think in some circumstances it does help. Although I do think a lot of people still prefer speaking to an actual person. But if you take call centers, for instance, you know, call centers used to be like a huge thing. Call centers today are still a big thing, but with COVID, a lot of people from call centers were actually laid off because there was no real work for them. So I would have assumed that chatbots would have skyrocketed during this COVID season.
Definitely. And I think it's sort of, there are two sides to that coin. The one is, I think people are hungry for real human interaction. And I mean, people have fatigue of, you know, Zoom fatigue and whatever platform you're using, all kinds of tech fatigue. So the last thing they want to do is that they've got this big need for human interaction. Now you're asking them to talk to a machine. You know, it's probably not very popular. But then you have the flip side, the other side of the coin. I mean, this week, let's take, for example, I was looking for cycling clothing. So, you know, I had a very busy week. So after hours, I was just looking what's in stock and, you know, I couldn't find it online. So I basically contacted, you know, one of the shops and I went to the website and they had this little chat feature and I clicked on it and then basically said, oh, it's after hours. There's no consultant to talk to me, but I can type in my email address. So I thought, okay, let's see. But, you know, it's a schlep. Now I have to give them my email address. I have to wait till the next day till somebody answers my email. And if I respond, now I'm responding with email. And I mean, I need to check my email once a day. So I'm still not sure if they responded again. So it becomes slow. So I can really think in terms of providing after hours service, you know, it really puts you above your competition, you know, in terms of service delivery. So I still think, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with the technology. I'm just not sure. And I mean, take e-commerce, for example. I mean, the .NET crash, the whole e-commerce, the boom, what did we call it? The bubble. What did we call it? The .NET bubble?
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, it was in the 2000s. Basically, everybody thought e-commerce is going to be a huge thing overnight. And yes. How long did it take for e-commerce to become commonplace? I mean, probably 10 plus years later. You know, the technology didn't change a lot in those 10 years. It's just that people weren't ready for it yet. And there's a saying that people tend to overestimate what the impact will be of technology over 3 years, and they underestimate what the change will be over a 10-year period. I mean, take mobile photos, for example. Just time travel 10 years ago, and I mean, now your parents and your grandparents are using, you know, chat functionality like WhatsApp and Facebook and whatever, where 10 years ago or 20 years ago, a lot of people that wasn't even aware of it. So the question is, if the timing was just, you know, the market wasn't just ready for it, because it's still amazing technology.
Yeah, I also believe in that. I think that it's got a lot of potential, and as we go along, it will obviously develop even more, because people, I think there is definitely a need for these type of intelligence and conversational apps and that type of stuff. But that brings me to finding Mina, which is also something that we discussed earlier.
Yes, so part of the research, I stumbled upon Mina. Now Mina is apparently one of the most intelligent chatbots in the world currently, and was developed by Google. Now, the thing is, what is interesting about Mina is that they use AI techniques behind the scenes, and they basically used AI. They gave a lot of social media information to Mina to learn how to have conversations. Now, the amazing thing about Mina is she actually has the ability to make jokes, because
Wow.
some of the criticism towards chatbots is that they can't sense things like sarcasm or anger, etc.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a very important factor when you're dealing with a customer, to sort of sense, on what sort of wavelength are they emotionally, and to have a meaningful conversation. But Mina is the most advanced chatbot in the world, apparently. And you can just Google it. There's very interesting information about the amount of information that they gave it to learn from. Is just staggering. So this is the cutting edge. Now, wow, the reason why we're joking about finding Mina is most of the information we found about Mina was about a year old. So we're looking for Mina. I wanted to chat with Mina and I couldn't find her. So if anybody's got any information about where Mina is, please let us know. I would like to chat to Mina. So I'm not sure if she hasn't been commercially rolled out like Siri yet. So yeah, please help us find Mina.
It would be interesting to chat with Mina and get a couple of jokes, because I think today everybody needs a joke in their life.
Definitely. So just to come back to chatbots, I think the amazing thing is the big takeaways is that chatbots are scalable and they can operate 24/7. So just imagine having technology that you're not paying by the hour, and you can communicate to hundreds of thousands or millions of people. So the thing is just you need to add to the customer experience, and you need to understand what will bring value. So there was something I want to highlight also with WhatsApp. As far as I'm aware, it's still quite limited. Send a message, you receive, and you can select options. But when it comes to Messenger, I really like what I've seen in terms of the user interface. Let's take a Burger King, for example. It's not just a message like the USSD code to its number. You actually see a picture of multiple items. You can scroll left, you can scroll right. That's really, in my opinion, very user-friendly. And also when you give multiple options, it's multiple buttons, so it's not just the old boring enter a number. So I quite like the Messenger look and feel of things. Just something else I want to highlight also, that with WhatsApp, there's an API that you need to use, and there's some resellers in South Africa. So it's not for free. You need to pay. The cost works out quite similar to sending SMSs to people. Also, WhatsApp's quite restrictive. You can't initiate. They're very strict on. They don't want it to become a spam platform. So typically with these chatbots, the end user needs to start the conversation or start the engagement. You can't just start randomly sending WhatsApp messages to people. There's strict rules about that. Whereas I think Messenger is a bit more, open, more relaxed in that regard. And then Skype and Slack is out there. Slack is quite nice in terms of doing development on it. But I mean, it's not everybody has it, and it's a bit more involved in terms of installation, whatever. And I mean, as far as I'm aware, I think Skype was bought over by Microsoft a few years ago. They used to have Microsoft Messenger, and now Skype is they've owned that for a while. I'm not sure how live Skype is now. I mean, everybody tends to use Zoom these days, so I'm not sure. Something worth looking at maybe.
Yeah, no, I think there's a couple of them available. I think Skype is a little bit more old school these days, because a lot of people are using Zoom, or they are using Microsoft Teams or something like, of the likes.
Yeah.
But I think what it all boils down to then is if it's not maybe a personal preference, would you like the convenience of speaking to a chatbot where they can answer questions for you after hours, and where you can get some of the information that you need, And I think it might also help a little bit with lead generation for companies, you know, to see what, because all of these things are monitored. So I think it does have a place, if I may answer that question. I think there is definitely a place for it, but it really depends on the person. Really depends on if you want to speak to somebody on the phone to get the answers, but then you have to wait until the next day, where most people work during the day and they actually want the information while they are looking, you know, at night at sites and want to ask about their, you know, preferences and stuff like that. So in my opinion, I think chatbots are still alive and kicking. I think it just needs a little bit development. And I think if we can find Mina, that's going to open up quite a few eyes for people. So yeah.
Yes, I think, yeah, just to add on what you're saying is, I think you need to understand your customer and you need to be innovative. I mean, some of these chatbots that I've seen locally, you know, you send a message and they send you back a flyer. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, what's the purpose of that? So try to be innovative. Don't just do what everybody else is doing. Would be my
and if you also think about it, a lot of the chatbots that you see these days, especially the ones that's on WhatsApp, works almost similar to an SMS, where you would have the USSD functionality and that type of stuff, where they would send you promos and that type of things. And maybe for some people that would work, because I know like the Checkers one, they work on WhatsApp and it seems to be working quite fine for them, but it's also a different market. It's also a different type of app. So that seems to be working for them. But if you're looking for something specifically in a niche market and that type of stuff, I think my expectation would be to have somebody that's on the other side, or a chatbot on the other side, that's a little bit more intelligent, that could also anticipate some of the questions that I would like to ask.
Definitely. The amazing thing that basically happening here is combining the technology with AI.
Yes.
Because learning and, you know, anticipating, there's huge potential for doing things. I mean, it's just waiting for the right entrepreneur with the right idea to basically run with this technology. I think it's underutilized and underutilized in South Africa at the moment, and I think even internationally, actually.
And I think it's also about engagement. You know, if you think about that, because a lot of people would like to have an actual discussion in terms of the information that they need. So it can't just be the normal, hi, how can I help you? What are you looking for? And then have a menu of options that they can go into, which a lot of chatbots actually have. But with the introduction of AI, you can actually do a lot of amazing stuff. You know, there's so many different things that you can do. And I think it's a question of time before AI is so implemented and so integrated into our lives that it may still create a space for chatbots. I just think that they will more become conversational bots, you know, in that type of sense. And I think from a business point of view, that's something that people should embrace, depending on their market, of course.
Sure. I think the technology is there in terms of conversations and detecting, you know, tone of voice and state of emotion, whatever. It's moving in that direction. It's not there yet for, you know, commercially available, but the technology is there. It's just it's there for the grabbing. all that's needed is the right entrepreneurial vision. We can make the technology solution happen. We just need the right entrepreneur to bring the right ideas to the table.
So today, ending off, we actually want to leave you with a question. We want to find out, what do you think about chatbots? Is there a place for chatbots? How do you experience chatbots? And yeah, does it make your life easier? So that's all from us today. And tune in next time, where we will be discussing more things about what can make your life easier.